Hi, Creepies. How are we doing today? It's been getting quite lonely here over at the Crypt, so I'm so glad you were able to join us. I'm assuming since you're here, right meow, watching this, you missed our terrific show with a creative George Michael. He is the creator, writer of Cover of Darkness, which is now in Kickstarter. All the information is down below. We had a wonderful time talking to George, interviewing him, getting to know him a little bit more on a personal level. So if you did miss the show, you're in for a real treat. I'm going to let you get to that. If you have not subscribed, or if you like the info that I give you and the content that we create here, make sure you slash that subscribe button, turn on that little bell, slap that like, and leave us a comment down below on maybe what you would like to see on the next Coffee Chat of Horrors. If you've missed me, then we're live every Sunday over on mixer.com/reanimator at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time for Coffee Chat of Horrors. All information is down below. I will slash it later. Goodbye. So many of us. We were all complaining about the time change right before we brought you on.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a night owl, so you know, losing an hour of sleep in the morning is not great for me.
No,
Hello.
no, it's not great for anybody. Guys, this is George Michael, writer of Cover of Darkness. This is the graphic novel that I have been showing you guys for the last little bit, even when we first came home back in June from the HorrorCon. I'm going to do a quick little, I'm just going to get the webcam fixed here first so we can go on with the show.
There it is.
There we go. Let's get the height. Why isn't the height working? Oh, there we go. It's going to go in and out with the camera for a second, just so I can get the settings down where I need them. Oh, that's good. That works. Nice, Spore, nice. So, Horde, good morning. I hope you have your coffee. Here is George Michael, writer of Cover of Darkness, who also has a Kickstarter going. All of his information is right there where you can find him. Website, Instagram, and we can get the Kickstarter link out there as well. They have a new book. Is Hiblin also the artist on the new Kickstarter?
Yes, that's right. So the Kickstarter is for issue 1, has our vampire story in it.
Oh, I love vampire stories. I love this book. This was awesome. Regal, how are you, darling? Thank you for that host. Um, yeah, this is George Michaels. I'm going to let George talk a little bit about himself and the book, and then we can get into questions. I know you guys love the questions. So I'm going to give Michael the floor. George Michael.
Hey guys, so my book is called Cover Darkness, and it's kind of like Game of Thrones meets Universal Monsters. It's about a family in medieval Romania, and they get separated from each other. Oh no, right?
That's
They
cool.
encounter vampires, werewolves, Frankenstein, the Mummy, and the creature from the Black Lagoon, like all the classics, right?
Yes.
So one thing that's really fun about it though is within our family we have a mom and our 2 daughters. She has twin shape-shifting nephews, boys that can turn into animals. So you get gorillas fighting werewolves, yetis fighting polar bears. It's like totally bonkers. So I really like the idea of having a shared universe of monsters, and that's what I set out to do, is to have all those kind of classic characters interact with each other, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Um, yeah, each issue is split between a monster origin story and the ongoing adventures of our family, and they're on a collision course with those monsters. So the first issue has our vampire story. We have a mummy story, Viking werewolf, steampunk Atlantean Frankenstein story. Yeah, it's totally bonkers.
That is awesome. I love this one that I read it when I came home. It is amazing. Amazing content in here. And like I was telling you guys earlier in the week, in the last 2 weeks, the artwork is crazy good. Crazy good. And we already have a question for you here. from Gamer Sass. So I'm going to read it to you really quick. As a writer, because Gamer Sass is a writer as well, a question I've always wondered is how you craft a story for this medium. He has pages upon pages to wander with dialogue and setup, but do you write like a long story, then the long story thing, and then take bits for each cell, or how do you work that out?
Right. So usually I make a master plan of where I want to go with the story. So I buy, like the big poster boards at the dollar store. I'll buy like a big one of those, and I'll get little post-it notes, and I'll map out each character's story arc as far as what they're going to go through emotionally and what's physically going to happen to them in the world. And so I map that all out so I know where I'm going, and then from there I usually I like to write in dialogue. So I'll just kind of my writing process is I'll go in my hot tub and have a couple beers, and
Nice.
just like type it out on my phone. So as long as I kind of know where I'm going, I can kind of just get into it and like try and relax and try and feel the conversation, and that's kind of my process is know where you're going with big picture, and then just kind of slow down and get into it piece by piece, interaction by interaction.
That's good information. Sitting in the hot tub, thinking of things to do, a more relaxing way of getting stuff, right? That's really cool.
Yeah, you got to get yourself off into imagination land, right? And not have so many distractions.
Yeah, yeah, because distractions can cover that whole creative process. I can definitely see that. I agree, Gamer Sans. That is very cool. And we have two members of the Horde here, Batty Page and Dillinger Banks, who are going to be seeing you at the Denver Pop Culture Con.
Oh,
So
that's great. Yeah, it's my first time going there. I'm really excited about that.
that's exciting. Yeah, I was telling them about it, and they were looking at conventions in their area in the States, and they saw that you were there. They're like, okay, we're going. So they're definitely going to go and meet you. So that's really cool.
Nice. I look forward to meeting them. That's great.
That's awesome. I love cons. I would love to go to the ones in the States. I've never been to one recently in the States, but I go to all the cons here in Canada.
You have a great one there, Calgary Expos. That's a good one.
It is yeah. I mean, there's one in Edmonton as well. It's just starting out, really. It's smaller than the one in Calgary, but they've got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of bummed actually. I was supposed to be at Emerald City in Seattle this weekend, and it got canceled for the.
The coronavirus,
Yeah,
the
yeah, lots
media
of big
virus,
events.
yeah. The flu has taken more lives, but people are more worried about this coronavirus. But the flu is deadlier than this virus.
Yeah, I know. I think it's a bit of a media hype thing,
Oh, it
kind of
definitely is.
spiraling out of control.
A scared population, man, are easy to control and manipulate, right? We don't
Yep.
hear about the protests in China anymore because there are none. Everybody who was protesting in the streets of China, those streets are now cleared. So, something to think about there.
Yeah, I'm more worried about running out of toilet paper right now.
Yeah, seriously. There are so many people that are coming into Costco and they're literally buying rolls, and I'm talking about packages of toilet paper. Everyone's freaking out. There's stores that there's no toilet paper, and it's like, come on, people. Like, use your brain. This virus is no worse than the flu. The flu is the worst virus you can catch right now. But everyone's worried about the corona. We do have a question from Batty Page. She wants to know how many issues are there, or how many issues will there be?
Right. So we have 6 issues completed right now, and we're actually almost finished issue 7 too. It's just getting lettered, like the artwork's done on it. Um,
Nice.
but we have it mapped out for like this 18 issue epic. So, but the first 6 issues basically collects like the first movie in the trilogy, a kind of idea. But like I said, each issue has a standalone monster origin story. So, and then that's half of it, and the other half is our ongoing adventure of our family.
Right.
And as the series progresses, the family collides with the monsters, and the monsters start to interact with each other. So we're building a
Interesting.
big mythology. I really like the idea of taking kind of like a Lord of the Rings type fantasy world with goblins and orcs and dragons, and then putting the classic horror monsters in that world. And so that's what we've done. We've really built a pretty rich world with lots of mythology, and issue one you get kind of a great introduction to it. We have been picked up by a publisher, so we will
Nice.
be in stores. They told me fourth quarter, so I don't know, like November, December.
Wow, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thanks so much. Thanks.
Wow,
Um,
that's great.
yeah, it's a tough business to yeah, making funny books is no joke because there's a lot of competition to get a spot with a publisher, and being I'm a new writer,
Yep.
and my artist MJ Hiblin, he's relatively new to comics too. One thing that's interesting about MJ's style here is he does everything digitally on his iPad with his finger. He doesn't use a
What?
stylus, so this is like the world's best finger painting.
That's amazing. That is
Yeah,
awesome. So he so he did this
yeah, all with his finger.
with his finger on an iPad, people. Finger iPad. What? Very talented, very talented. That's amazing. Um I have some questions. We're going to get back to everybody else's questions, but I do have some background questions for George. What did you decide that you wanted to create as your very first graphic novel or comic as your career? Like, what made you want to go for writing as a career among anything else?
Well, I've always loved comics ever since I was a little boy. I've loved storytelling and just kind of wanted to be a part of that. And really, like, I kind of got started late. Like, I've only been doing this for about 2 years now, and a lot of it was kind of not that I didn't want to do it. I always wanted to do it. When I was a kid, I had a copy of How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way
Uh
by
huh.
John Buscema, and I wore that book out, man. I had that just memorized frontward and backwards, and would practice at the kitchen table drawing and dreaming of being a comic book artist one day, and and then just in like my mid 30s, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it. I spent a lot of time just being afraid of like putting myself out there,
Yeah.
and you know, like I think you were talking about earlier, like believing in yourself.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, yeah, I was had a lot of self doubt about it, and then I was like, you know what? Am I just gonna live my life in fear? Am I gonna be afraid to like go for these things and chase after my dreams?
Right.
And I decided, no, I'm gonna go for it. And so once that switch was kind of clicked in my head, and I decided, yeah, no, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna try and make this happen. I sat down and I thought, okay, I'm gonna make a whole comic book by myself, and you know, and I started writing it, and I spent about 6 months writing it. I did 6 issues of a series called Fire Engine Red. It's it's an action comic. It's kind of like Die Hard in a forest fire. It's about a female firefighter. She needs to rescue her boyfriend,
Oh,
take down
nice.
armed mercenaries. Lots of action. There's some cheesy one-liners in there, but she's got a complicated relationship with her man. She's more at home in a burning building than in the flames of romance.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
So that was my first script. I spent a long time writing it, and and then I sat down to draw it, and I hadn't really spent a lot of time drawing since high school, and I started working on it. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna need some professional help on this.
Right.
And yeah, so I started reaching out to artists, and for that book, the firefighter book, it was actually picked up by a Canadian comic book company. They're called Comic Stream,
Okay.
and they're launching later this year. And it's kind of like a Netflix for comics. They have like all exclusive comic book content on their site, and all the comics are interactive, and the panels will move and breathe, and they have
Oh, wow.
a soundtrack and a score to them.
And what's that called again?
It's called Comic Stream.
Comic.
Yeah, with a K and an X, comics stream.
Comic
And
stream.
and
Perfect.
they liked my script so much that they bought it for money, and they hired like an artist. His name is Ali Garza,
Yeah.
and Ali worked on Deadpool, Teen Titans,
Yeah.
Supergirl. So really, I kind of hit a home run with my first time out at bat there. This is
Yeah,
some of
you did.
Ali's artwork. Ali did a cover for Cover of Darkness. Um,
Nice.
yeah, he's pretty fantastic here.
Right. That's amazing work. That is definitely amazing work. That congratulations on that. I'm gonna check out this comic stream stuff as well. I like looking at those things. I love comic books. I love the horror genre side of comic books, but I mean to look at some of the amazing work that gets done by artists and the creativity that writers have to create such stories is really awesome. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
No
Yeah,
problem.
that was pretty amazing getting that book picked up by a publisher, and then so I took a lot of my profits I made from that story, and I started putting it into my horror book, Cover of Darkness,
Right.
and so we've been working on it for a year and a half now, and we have 6 issues completed. I took it on the road, so last year was my last year doing conventions. I did 16 cons,
Wow.
went all over the country. I was in Calgary, as in New York City, New Orleans, Los Angeles. I actually did a road trip. I did 4 conventions in 4 weeks. Um, and I thought, oh, this is going to be great. Really get out there and meet people, and one thing that's like really important if you're like a new comic book creator is make sure you research your conventions to make sure that you have
Oh.
the people there, because some of the conventions I went to were pretty empty, and so I ended up like sleeping in my van at like truck stops.
Oh no.
Yeah, I was just like surrounded by like comic books and a sleeping bag in the truck stop, but I I made it through there, and it was a blast. I made so many like new friends and met so many cool people, and it was an absolute blast. But
That's
yeah,
great
4 conventions in
advice.
4 weeks.
Great advice. If you're doing cons, guys, check them out ahead of time. Hotels, stays, everything. Batty Page just pledged the orc level on your Kickstarter, by the way. Um,
Awesome.
Yeah, we have a really great community here. I'm going to introduce you to the Horde, and I want to tell you a little bit about the Horde. The Horde is made up of amazing people from all over the world that love horror, that or interest them in horror and the creative side of things, and they really enjoy connecting with people like yourself on this level, and they are really big supporters, especially in the indie market, because that's where a lot of our people need support in the horror industry. We all know that the horror industry is a very niche type of genre, and independent filmmakers, independent writers, and authors, and all of those, they survive off of the support of fans. And this is why I love doing interviews with people in the indie area of horror, because it brings a light to what they do and how they do it, because nobody else does, right? The fans of horror help bring light and information of what's being made. So I'm very happy to have you on the show. Very happy to have you here and excited.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for backing my book, everybody. Um, yeah, it's been a lifelong dream to make comic books, and our book is 100% completed. And so, for those of you who aren't familiar with Kickstarter, Kickstarter is a way of backing an independent project and helping it get up and running. So the profits from the Kickstarter, when you back the book, you can buy a digital copy for $5. You can get a physical copy for 10, and and there's lots of different rewards, posters and prints and T-shirts and original artwork. But basically, all that goes into funding the book. So we're going to do a print run and then continuing to make this series too. Um, so thank you for your support on backing the project. It's a cool monster book. I think you guys will dig it, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, and thank you for having me on your show.
Oh,
I love getting out and meeting people and stuff.
For sure, for sure. I mean, we're content creators. You create comic books and graphic novels and stories. I create content with in the horror industry myself on a live stream where we do this coffee chat of horror. So I definitely understand the whole getting out there, putting yourself out there is very scary. It's very vulnerable when you're in the public eye, and there is no script that we go off of, especially live and at conventions and stuff. Anything can happen. Anything can happen.
Yeah,
Um,
I realized pretty quickly that it's not enough to just make a book and put it out into the world. You actually have to go out and sell it. Um,
yep.
and yeah, unfortunately, I see that a lot at conventions. Is there'll be people there that they're just kind of sitting on their hands, sitting at their table, waiting for somebody to approach them,
Yeah.
and that makes it really difficult, guys. If you want to get into any sort of industry where you're selling a product, like whether it's books or comics or movies or anything, you have to get out there and hustle,
You do.
and I'm sure you
You
do
got to
too.
be your
You're
marketer. You have to be your, and I do the same thing. I just can't sit here and live stream and just and think that people are going to come and watch me. I need to tell people about me. I'm not Nike. Nobody knows that I exist unless I do all of the footwork. And I'm head of my marketing. I'm head of IT, and I'll be doing my first Comic Con in Calgary at the Calgary Expo this June. So I'm excited about that. But
Nice.
yeah, you have to go and get it. If you are passionate about it, if you really want this, you will go out and get it. That's how I look at things. I notice those as a viewer of a con, as a patron of a con, I've seen many people just sit down, or they're either drawing or they're just sitting there, their hands are folded or they're on their phone. They're not getting up and saying, hey, by the way, I am Reanimator, I'm a blah, blah, blah. They're not going out and getting that. And I think a lot of people are trying to get out of their own shell. And that's really good advice is to go out there and get it. If you want it, you're going to go and get it.
Yes, my gimmick is if you're walking by my table, I'll ask, "Do you like monsters?"
Yes, yes, you
And
do.
it's kind of a trick question because everybody likes monsters.
Everybody loves monsters.
And
For
so then
sure.
they freeze and they're like not used to having a stranger ask them if they like monsters. And then
Mm-hmm.
they'll stop and they'll be like, "Well, yeah." And then I say, "Can I show you some cool monsters?" And I have my big poster book of all the different artwork from our comic book, and then I start going my pitch, and
Right.
here's here's our vampires and werewolves and all that stuff, and just kind of initiating that conversation. And I really try and bring a lot of passion and enthusiasm. And lots of times I'll get like a high five, like
Right.
mid. So just kind of showing that you are excited about your book or your project is really important to drawing in an audience.
Oh, for sure, for sure. You have to show that excitement because if you're just sitting there and you're talking monotone and you're not excited about your book, what's going to make anyone go to buy that book? Like it's like watching a movie. If you're not excited about making a movie when you're promoting it, who's going to be interested in watching it, right?
That's true, yeah. And I know as a writer that most people are buying my comic book based on the artwork. They say that most people buy the first issue for the way it looks.
Right.
And so um, the biggest kind of compliment that I ever get is when people come back and maybe they bought issue one on like the Friday of the convention,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll come back and they'll be like, "All right, give me the rest of them. That was pretty good." So
Yeah.
that really says a lot to me when people like it
Oh, for
and come back for more.
sure. That's got to give you a nice pat on the back, like you're coming back for more, and you're coming back because not only the artwork, but the story that I'm spinning for you. I read this. I was loving it. Um, I enjoyed reading this. I was excited to come home and start reading it. I may just read a couple of passages throughout my stream this week, but I highly suggest it. And there is a Kickstarter going. And Miss Chicken Arms, for your question there, in the UK, I believe since it's a Kickstarter, it's worldwide. So if you were interested in getting your hands on a copies or a copy of this, you should be able to go to the Kickstarter and do it. I'm not familiar. I've never done a Kickstarter myself, but I'm assuming it's got to be worldwide. Is it worldwide?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I did a Kickstarter for my first for the first issue of my other book, Fire Engine Red,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, we had orders go ship out all over the world, Australia, Japan, all over the place.
Yeah. So there you go, Miss Chicken Arms. You should be able to get this. Now, Book was asking, is any of your graphic novels available at Barnes and Noble, which is the American version of Chapters?
No. So I've been waiting for my publisher to kind of take those things on. So the book isn't available in bookstores, in comic book stores. It isn't available on Comixology, like digital comic apps. It's pretty much only available through me right now. Um, the publisher that came on, they're pretty exciting. I don't want to say who they are yet because it's not 100%
Yeah, no,
signed up and sealed off, but they redesigned my logo for me, and it looks pretty cool now. I thought it was all right before, but it's even better now.
right on.
And they told me fourth quarter, so then they'll be handling collecting it into trades and putting it into Barnes and Nobles, and that'll probably be spring summer 2021.
2021? Oh,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's exciting. That's really exciting. We have another question from Batty Page. She wants to know, how do you choose your artists that will fit with your writing styles?
Okay, yeah. You definitely want to try and pick an artist that is reliable. It's making comics is a collaboration, and you want to have somebody that is quick to respond to emails, that puts out work on a regular basis. Um, that's almost as important as the quality of the artwork, to be honest
Yeah.
with you. Like, you're trying to make something here, and we've like basically in Cover of Darkness we've put out close to 140 pages between our 6 issues. So
Wow.
we've done that in like a year and a half, and so that's a pretty solid rate. It's hard when maybe you get like a page a month out of somebody. That makes it really difficult to make a series. You want to make sure that the artwork fits the tone of the of what you're trying to do. Like our artist here, he has really kind of a gritty gothic vibe to his work, and that
Yes.
was part of the reason why I chose him. If you're making a story about ponies, you might want something a little bit more cartoony and bouncy, right?
Right.
Um, you know, one thing that maybe should be said when you're looking at making comics, you need to have a budget as a writer. Um, Artists are approached every day with hey, do you want to do a collaboration with me? And I'll write it and you draw it and we'll own it 50-50. And any professional artist is really going to turn that down unless you're Robert Kirkman. Unless there's like really a good chance that this book is going to be go into different media formats. There's really this is their job, is making artwork, and so as a writer you need to have a budget and be able to pay them.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, nobody wants to work for free, and it's again just like in anything, it's kind of volatile as well. When when you're looking for an artist, or if an artist looking for a writer, a lot of these times they're just starting out. They're they maybe have writing behind them or artwork behind them for a couple of years. Not everybody is made of money that can be like, yeah, you know what, no worries, let's go halves on this, and if we make money, we make money kind of deal. Got to be a pretty competitive market as well.
Yeah, like that's for a series. You can ask an artist, like if you have a friend, or if an artist is just starting out, hey, do you want to do a cover? We'll feature your artwork in the book, things like that. That's one page. That's if they want to do it, that's cool. But if you're looking to get a series going, you need to have a budget, because that's a lot of work and that's an ongoing commitment. And
Oh,
you're
for
going to
sure.
want them to take it professionally as well and deliver, on deadlines and expectations.
For sure. Yeah. Expectations, when they finish, and you have to rely on this person. So not only are you giving them money, but you have to rely on them to be as diligent and ambitious as you are to getting that content out in a timely manner. Oh, definitely understand that. We got another question from Dillinger. Which is your favorite vampire? Shrek in Nosferatu, Lugosi, Lee, or Oldman?
I do kind of like Oldman. I know maybe he's like not as popular as other, but just
Oldman's great, man.
he's so creepy with the crazy hairdo and stuff like that, and the shadow moving against the walls and stuff. No, I really dug that a lot. I just recently rewatched Dracula too.
Yeah, we recently did a coffee chat of horrors on Bram Stoker's Dracula, where we like to when I do coffee chat of horrors. Normally, we talk about a horror movie and we go in depth. We pull it apart. We talk about behind the scenes, the actors, and stuff like that. And once a month, I do interviews with creatives like yourself. And we just recently spoke about Bram Stoker's Dracula, one of my favorite Dracula movies.
Yeah, it's crazy how much like Keanu Reeves has like grown on me because I remember
Right?
in the '90s, his acting really bugged me, like especially in movies like Dracula or he was in Much Ado About Nothing, and it didn't really seem to vibe. Of course, I loved him in like Speed and The
Right.
Matrix, but it was getting to be a bit of a joke with the whoa and that sort of stuff. But now just this resurgence that he's had with John Wick, and then going back and rewatching those movies, it's like yeah, okay,
Yeah.
he's one of my favorite action heroes for sure.
Do you know he hated the way he acted in Bram Stoker's Dracula? He hated it. He said it wasn't one of his best. That he did not like what he did there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
They chose him because they wanted a heartthrob. They wanted women to be interested in this love story because when it was first being shown, it was more of like a horror movie, not realizing that it's an actual love story over a horror movie. And they wanted females to be interested in it more, so they wanted the top hot guy of the year, and Keanu was just that.
yeah, it seems like maybe casting an Englishman might have been more suitable for that
I
role.
would think so because it's London is where the story takes place when he comes and visits Winona Ryder, right? So
Yeah.
could have been. We do have an.
Actually,
Go ahead.
I just recently picked up the comic book adaptation of Dracula, the uh, Mike Mignola, the creator of Hellboy. It was the
Oh,
last work that he did before he created Hellboy,
right.
and it was out of publication for like 25 years, and they just reprinted it, and it's beautiful, and it's
Wow, I'm
in
gonna need one of those.
yeah, yeah, go check it out.
Oh, we will be checking it out. Batty Page also needs one. I love vampires. Vampires are great. Um, we have another question. I don't know who asked this question, so if you say me in chat, I will give you credit for the question. What would you say is the scariest story you've ever read?
Scariest story I've ever read.
Dillinger Banks did that question.
I don't know. I don't know what is the scariest one. Um,
One that ever sticks out with you, maybe throughout. I mean, for me, it was scary stories to tell in the dark as a kid. I would get these books from the library, and I remember reading them page after page over and over. Like that stuck with me. I'm 42 years old, and I can still remember the stories from from those books.
yeah, you know what? You're right though. It is a lot of like um how old you are, what your mindset is at those times. Like I remember having like the Goosebumps series and and just crushing those books. I had so many of them.
Goosebumps. Yeah, R.L. Stein was amazing. We got Christopher Pike as well. I don't remember Christopher Pike, but he also did his version of horror books.
Yeah. That's one thing I love about watching horror movies in the theater is there's no distractions. You're focused in and it really like locks you into the experience. I find like at home it's like there's so many distractions, like the dog's walking across the floor. Oh, I got a text. Okay, I'm gonna take a look at that. And
Yep.
oh, who is that actor? I recognize him. And then I'm on IMDb trying to look at like who that actor is, and being locked into horror I think is so essential to experiencing it correctly. You know what I mean? Um, Being just dialed in and feeling those goosebumps.
Right, right. Oh, we're just gonna confirm that the Bram Stoker Dracula graphic novel rewrite is, and that's who'd you say it was by again?
Mike Magnolia.
Mike Magnolia. Okay, so we did find it on Amazon. For those of you that are interested in this graphic novel as well, I know some of you are like me. Oh, Dillinger beat me to it with that link. GG's, Dillinger. GG's. I love vampires, so that's going to be definitely something that I will be getting my hands on. We do have another question is what is your writing schedule like? How long does it take you to complete a comic from start to finish? And again, I forgot to write down who asked this question. So if it's your question, please let me know. Fatty Page asked it. Mm-hmm.
So my schedule for writing is all over the place. I write kind of, when the mood strikes me, which is not the best way to be a professional, but
But it's how your creative process works, right?
yeah. So normally, like I can get through about 4 pages in a sitting, and that'll take me, but about if I'm just doing dialogue, about 2 hours. If I'm doing the whole script, about 4 hours, for a comic book. So, but the thing is trying to muster up that mojo to do it. I know it might sound a little lame, but really kind of getting into the zone where you can focus in on is only so long. I heard recently that like Christopher Columbus like wrote Home Alone in a weekend, and that just like blows my mind because
Yeah.
I find for myself, writing is something that takes time, that you have to be in the mood for, and you can kind of put yourself there, and you can kind of direct yourself to get into that mood, but it's not necessarily easy. The One of the best pieces of advice I've received as far as writing goes is that you can't make it better until it's on the paper. And
Right.
as long as it's kind of, rolling around in your brain, it's going to stay what it is. Um, and so that was an important piece of advice for me to receive, because I realized that, it might be painful, like almost physically painful, because if you're writing and you're not feeling it and you're like, this isn't good, what am I doing? Why did I think I could do this? And you're trying to push it out there though. But once it's on the paper, or once it's on my phone, I can go back and I can make it better. I can do a second draft and a third draft and a
Right.
fourth draft and get it to a point where I'm happy with it. And I
Sure.
think that's really important for anybody that's wanting to have to explore their creative side, to do some writing, is to get it out there on paper. And so much of this is like, so much of the setback is being embarrassed, and you
Right.
really push back past that. Like I know people, I know even myself, like I used to be like embarrassed of like my own writing, and I'm like, oh, why would I do that? But really, you got to believe in yourself, and you got to decide to go for it, and that means working at it.
Right.
So yeah, so to answer your question, I try and do something writing wise every day, and but as far as the time, that's just whenever. It might be in the
Right.
morning after I drop my kids off at school. I'll go to the coffee shop and sit there for an hour or two, or it might be at the end of the night in the hot tub. Who knows? But yeah, and so usually it's between 2 and 4 hours.
On, right on. Yeah, I definitely feel you as a creator myself, putting yourself out there, um, worried about being embarrassed. Like for me, when I did my first coffee chat of horrors, I was so nervous. It's live. I did not know what I was doing. I winged most of it, and yeah, push through that vulnerability, push through that, know that you can do it, and just take it by the balls, I say, and go for it. And you have to put yourself out there. Big risks usually give you big rewards, and if you never take those risks, you never know where you're gonna go. Uh, we got another question from Scroto Baggins. Have you ever? they, they They get creative with their names. Have you ever considered doing an 80s slasher movie style comic?
No, I haven't thought about that. I did my first script, like I said earlier, was Fire Engine
Hmm.
Red, which was like kind of a tribute to 80s action movies, which I love. But I
Right?
also really love 80s slasher movies. I do try and, in my Cover of Darkness book, while it does have monsters, I try and channel some of my love of 80s slasher movies into that.
Right.
Um, I always like when you can kind of root for the bad guy too. Maybe he's been done wrong, and so he's getting revenge on the people who
Right.
who who did him bad,
Like Miss
and so
Voorhees.
you can kind of root for him,
Yeah.
and so I like that, and I like some of the kind of cheesiness in there. In my book, I have in the second issue we have a mummy story, and the mummy. The pharaoh is okay. Here's some spoilers, but he he gets he gets offed by his most trusted advisor and his general, and then he's brought back to life by the sun god Ra.
Oh,
And
nice.
yeah, because he was building pyramids for Ra, and so Ra resurrects him, and so but he's in this mummy form, and he's looking to get revenge on the people that did him wrong. And one scene, he's killed the wife of his most trusted advisor, the one that stabbed him in the back,
Oh,
and
yes.
he's the his advisor's coming home from a late night of gambling, and the mummy's under the covers with his wife, and the wife's dead, and he lifts over the covers, and he says, "Come to bed, dear. My feet are cold." That was great. So I
That's
like a
awesome.
little bit of the cheesiness,
Right.
just a little bit. I don't do it too often, but just once in a while. And rooting for the bad guy. One of my favorite villains, and I think for most people, is Freddy Krueger. And I like that he kind of had a bit of a sense of humor to him, and that he
For sure.
was kind of twisted and enjoyed what he was doing.
Oh, for sure. So on that subject, what is your favorite 80s slasher film flick? And that's coming from me. Like, what is your favorite in the 80s slasher genre? Freddy Krueger is in there, obviously, and, Jason, Michael, got several.
Yeah. I love The Thing. Uh,
Oh, the thing is great.
That's great. Um, um, slasher. I don't know. I like Child's Play. The first one was pretty fun.
Chucky. Oh yeah, it's fun comedy. It's a fun, almost borderline comedy horror. I mean, I love Chucky. I've got the dolls behind me, and I thought their movie it's a pretty good movie.
Yeah, I like a little bit of fun with it. Like A Nightmare on Elm Street's my favorite. Um,
Yes.
and number two especially, Dream Warriors.
Oh, number three, Dream Warriors. Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Number two was okay. It was a sequel to it. It was okay, but I think Dream Warriors is the best one. It's my favorite out of the franchise as well. Is number three. It's awesome. I agree.
Yeah, I'm more of a '90s kid, to be honest. Like, Scream. You
Scream.
know,
Yep. Oh, I know what you did last summer. Those type of.
yeah. I love Candyman. Candyman was
Oh,
one.
Candyman is awesome. I can't wait to see the new one, the revision or whatever we want to call it from Jordan Peele. I'm excited to see that one.
Yeah, me too. I'm wondering, like, I heard that Tony Todd's going to be in it, but I didn't see him in the trailer,
I
so I'm
didn't
not
see him
really
in the
sure what's happening there.
I didn't see him in the trailer either, but I did my research because I love Tony Todd. I think he is a legend in horror, and he is to me Candyman. That nobody else can replace him as Candyman. And I watched the trailer, and yeah, I didn't see him in it, but then I did my research, and of course I went to IBDM and I did that as well. They say he's Candyman on there, but that could also be false as well. Like there's no concrete evidence saying that he is going to be Candyman, but I think you'll have a lot of pissed off people if we do not see Tony Todd come up as Candyman, leaving on that legacy to his son or whoever this new character is going to be. think there'll be a lot of mad people if we don't see that.
Yeah. No, it was one of my favorite series, and I'm really excited that we're getting a new movie.
Oh, for sure, because the first one came out in 1992, and I remember seeing that in the theaters. That was a great movie. I fell in love with Candyman right then and there.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen like a movie kind of focused on Virginia Madison. Is that her name?
Yes,
The actress that because
yes,
I don't know if you remember at the end, then she was like haunting her husband or whatever.
yeah. Yeah, that would have been pretty cool to go off of the storyline of about her and where she comes into this legend now, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with that. Batty Page has a question. What scares you the most?
Well, fear of the unknown for sure, right?
Oh, well, yeah. Oh, for sure.
Just not knowing what's gonna happen. Um, so this one time, my wife and I we were in China. We went to the giant Buddha of Lashan, which if you're not familiar with that, it's like basically like Mount Rushmore, but it's a Buddha in the side of a mountain.
Oh, cool.
And we went there to go see it, and we had been traveling all day to get to this site, and we took trains and stuff like that. And so we get there, and the sun's going down, and it's kind of like almost like a provincial park area. And so we go into the park, and we go and we see the Buddha, and it's like just as the sun's coming down, and it's like great, this was awesome, we were able to do it, and so we start making our way out towards the exit, and we notice that like there's nobody around, like nobody, and the sun's going down, and just as it's like getting dark, we make it back to the front gate, and the gate's closed,
Oh.
and this is like 30-foot tall solid wooden gate with mountains on either side of it, and it was like we are trapped in here,
Yeah.
and trapped in this park, and like it was like unscalable, like you couldn't get through it. So we start, okay, well maybe there's another exit, so we start walking on the paths in the forest in China, and there's these statues, like these 6 foot 10-foot tall statues of like lions and tigers and um, dragons, just on the side of the paths, like every 50 feet or so there's a new one,
Oh,
and
wow.
you wouldn't see it because it was dark, right, until it was like right on top of you. And so I'm just like getting more and more scared, like what's gonna happen, and what are all these things out here, and what's that sound, and 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 then we're walking down this path, and we're looking for a way out of this place, and we hear like this really ominous chanting, and they're it's like a Buddhist kind of chanting, and which can be a bit unnerving, I'm sure.
Oh
They're
yeah, it's dark.
not,
You've got
but
these statues around. You're locked out of the place where all of your stuff is, and then this chanting going on.
yeah, so we see some buildings up in the distance, and it's like, well, that's where the scary chanting's coming from. But that's their only signs of life. Maybe we should head towards them. And so we come up behind two buildings somehow, um, and there's a skinny alleyway, like full of like garbage and stuff like that. And we start walking through it, and like rats run out right in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
We scream, and we just like start running as fast as we could, and we make it out into a city street, and there's people around, and there's lights, and we're safe. But that was maybe one of the scariest things I've ever experienced, was just the fear of the unknown. We're locked in here, and what's going to happen?
Oh yeah, it is. That's the scary thing. You're in a strange land. You're locked out of where all your belongings are in the safe area, right? There's scary statues that you don't see until you come up upon them. There's eerie chanting. You're like, am I going towards a cannibal tribe? What's happening here? All right, that's a good story. I do have a question for you from Mama Ducky. This is, does your books and comics have only one cover, or do they have different covers? Do the covers variant per issue?
Sure. So we have four covers available for the first issue on Kickstarter. We've got this one by Ali Garza, right? Our main one is like this by MJ Hiblin. It's actually in black. This is our series artist. We have one here. This is by Carrie Nord. Carrie's actually from Calgary as well.
Oh,
And
nice.
Carrie worked on Wonder Woman, Daredevil. He worked on Conan the Barbarian. He won an Eisner Award for it, which is like
Wow.
the highest honor in comic books, like the Oscar of comic books. And Carrie was kind enough to do a cover for us. And I have a cover by Scott McDaniel as well. And Scott worked on Batman and Nightwing and Spider-Man. So while myself and my co-writer Chris Cam are new to comics,
Right?
and MJ Hiblin is also a relative newcomer. We've got some industry veterans doing those variant covers for us.
Nice. That
Yeah,
is
and
pretty
they're
awesome.
small print runs, and these will be kind of the Kickstarter version of the comic before it's relaunched through the publisher at the end of the year here. So these not to be too much of a salesman, but I do feel like these will go up in value.
Oh, I think so
A
as well.
single issue comics of a series before it comes out through a publisher.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got another question. This comes from Diva Hot Pepper. Who inspired your writing?
Um, I have lots of inspirations. Um, Someone that really inspired me to um, go for my dream and write was Kevin Smith, the filmmaker,
Ah, yes.
Clerks and Chasing Amy. Um, I love his style of his dialogue and kind of
Yeah. It's
the
comic
rapid
booky.
pace and wittiness of it. I love just his story of how he self-funded his first movie. He
That he did.
put the whole project on like his credit card for like 28,000 and filmed at night at the convenience store where he worked at.
Yeah.
And so I really love that story of just someone getting after it and making their dreams happen. And so I took that upon myself to create my own book. And like when I was doing my road trip there, where I
Yeah.
was sleeping in my van, just kind of getting after it and trying to make it happen myself. A lot of this project, Cover Darkness, is it's all self-funded between
Right.
myself, my co-writer Chris Cam, and a lot of it's on credit cards and things like that too. And so you put out the money out front and hire an artist, and then try and recoup the cost through selling the books.
Right.
Um, I love Quentin Tarantino. Uh, I love Kevin Williamson. In comics, Brian Michael Bendis, Jason Aaron.
Nice.
There's so many great writers that um, inspire me to write more. And one thing that's interesting though is as much as like seeing something great and seeing something that you love can inspire you to be creative, almost equally for myself is
Mhm.
seeing something like really not great and seeing like seeing a movie or reading a comic book and it's just like I could do that better. you know uh, that inspires me too.
Well, sure it does. Yeah. Because you are your own competition, really, right? So when you look at writing your comic book and you're reading something and you're like, well, shit, yeah, I can do that better. It's the same way as getting into any kind of content creation that I do as well. Is that you see some really good content creators and then you see some that are like, and you're like, I can do that better. Let's see what I can come up with, right? Gives you that competitive, edge to go for it and see what you can bring out of that. Let's see. We have a funny question from Morning Rise. Going back to your hot tub, do you write your hot tub off on your taxes since it's basically your home office?
I should. I
You
should.
should, right? Because you work from there. Technically, you really could.
Should. I should right off my electrical bill. Jeez.
Yeah, you should. Well, you should be able to. I know in Canada, like for my business, which is my content creation, I can write off my internet, my part of my electric, not all of it, obviously, my room, stuff like that. So I think he would be able to write off a little bit of the hot tub. We also have here, I don't know who did this question either because I forgot to write down your name. So if this is yours, please let me know. They said they dig your Carpenter shirt. Who's your favorite horror director and writer? And Carpenter has got to be that. And They Live. That is an amazing shirt, dude. I just picked up They Live action figures.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, They Live is an awesome movie. So that's
Um,
really cool that you're wearing that shirt. Love
I
it.
got this shirt at Alamo Draft House, which is a chain of movie theaters in the United States there. And
Oh,
man, we need those up in Canada here.
we
It's
do.
such a great experience because there's like absolutely no talking, no cell phone use. Like there's like strict rules on that. You can go before the show and have dinner there, and there's a bar. There's even like a night, at least at the one I went to, there was like a silent nightclub with like headphones, and so like everybody's jamming out to their own tunes. Um, yeah, it was a really good experience. I actually went and saw Jojo Rabbit in Austin, Texas when I was there in the fall, and they played movies that Tika Waititi had made when he was like in film school and stuff like that, and
Right.
they're so funny. They're like just like no budget. It's like he played all the characters, and he'd have like a mustache in one role, and just totally bonkers. Um, my favorite film directors was the question. I love uh, Wes Craven, obviously, John
Yeah.
Carpenter. Um, yeah, I really like what Kevin. I don't know, same thing everybody
Kevin
likes, you know,
Smith,
Kevin Smith.
Wes Craven, Carpenter. We definitely get you. And that question was by Morning Rise. Now I have another question here from Nith. Do you find it better to sit and think through a sequence before writing it, or do you prefer to think at the keyboard and get every thought down? And I know you kind of touched base on this earlier when you were saying just to get it out on paper that you were just, on your phone in the hot tub.
Um, so yeah, I usually will, try and think about what I want to do in the scene and what I'm trying to accomplish. Writing comics is definitely very different than making like a novel. You're very limited in space, and you have to be aware of your um, of what you're trying to accomplish and how many panels you want to do that in. So
Right.
like kind of the maximum that you want to put on a page is 6 panels, and you really only want to have like one or two word balloons per per panel, and you only got about between 20 and 28 pages to tell a story. So while it might seem like a lot, it goes by quick,
Like,
especially if you're trying to build like this huge horror fantasy world like we are. And you have to try and keep in mind each character's personality and what their motivations are. So I definitely think about what I want to accomplish in the scene, but I mostly try when I my writing process is mostly to focus on the dialogue. So I'll write my dialogue, and I'll try and keep that as lean and mean as I can. But so let's say I write a scene and I've got 12 different bits of dialogue, and say okay, back and forth, and through that dialogue I'm able to tell the story verbally. Then I go back through that and I break down what I want the artist to draw, and I give him a description of what I want him to draw, and I break that into the different panels. So 12 um, 12 bits of dialogue might go into 6 different panels, which I might do a splash page on one page, and then on the second page I might have 5 panels on it, or I might have 3 and 3, or however I decide to break it up.
right. That's very cool. Yeah, we have a few writers in here as well. So, and a few that should be writers, because they have such amazing creative talent. So, listening to this, I hope it inspires them to go out and get what they want as they're in becoming a writer. We have another question from Reaper 1923. Do you find writing for graphic novels is harder or easier because you have to explain the story in fewer words?
Harder or easier than like writing a novel?
Yeah. Do you find writing for graphic novels easier or harder than writing? I guess assume a comic book.
Well, like as far as like comparing it to like other mediums, so I am working on an animated TV show right now. It's called a Megamorphosis. It's
Nice.
about a scientist and a team of like young adventurers that he takes out, and they try and save the day from natural disasters and stuff. I'm having a blast writing that.
That's
I,
awesome.
Thank you. Um, I
Uh,
find comic books to be um, a lot more limited as far as what you can do. In animation, there's
mhm.
you can kind of create anything, and the dialogue you can have so much more. But at the same time, while that's nice, and you have the ability um, to say as much as you want, really. Um, Having limitations and having restrictions forces you to be creative in different ways,
Right.
and that can be uh, in a way easier too. So uh, having unlimited options can be great, but then you've got a lot to do, which makes it to more work in a way.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I got you. Yes.
yeah. So I do like writing comics. It's maybe my uh, favorite format to write in is comic books. I can't imagine writing a novel, to be honest with you. Just all the descriptive language and setting up the scene and stuff. It seems like just really daunting to me. I really
Right.
admire people who are able to do that. It's not something for me. I'd rather just write a short description on what's happening and then have an artist bring that to life than for me
Right.
to spend a page, describing it.
Well, yeah. I know Gamer Sass is saying novels are easy for him because he likes telling stories. He says he's long winded, so he likes writing novels. um, this question's from Dillinger Banks. Would you ever want to direct a movie?
Well, sure, that sounds exciting. Absolutely. I wouldn't really know where to start, but I have thought of like maybe going to film school and stuff like that. I remember like when I was in high school, I went to the Vancouver Film School for like a day trip thing and got a tour of it, and I was like, wow, this would be amazing to do. And then kind of fear set in, right? And I was like, oh
Yeah,
no, that was just kind of daydreaming. So yeah, who knows where things will go, but
for sure. I mean, you got you've got your graphic novels, you got your comic books. You can probably kind of get an idea and turn that into some sort of movie as like and direct that. But hey, you never know what the future holds, right?
yeah, absolutely. It's another thing too, self-funding a comic book and
Yeah,
self-funding a movie or something like that. So you'd have to have people believing in your project and backing
for
it
sure.
for
Oh,
sure.
for sure. And there's even more money when you're making a movie over creating a comic book or a book. So it's definitely,
I want to give a shout out to
yeah.
Spencer Estabrooks. Spencer is an indie filmmaker and a comic book maker. He's
Ooh,
based out of Calgary, Alberta,
you need to give me
Canada.
his info. I'm going to contact him.
Yeah, no, I
Definitely hit me
will.
up after the show with some contact information because I'm a huge supporter of indie filmmakers.
So Spencer has a series called Sharkosaurus.
Chuckosaurus.
It's about like a underground kind of like Tremors style uh, T-Rex shark hybrid. And it's just
Right.
like totally bonkers. And he brings a lot of humor to it, and he's made a comic book of it that's been really successful. And he's actually, I think he's launching today his Kickstarter to
Oh,
fund. He's trying to raise $12,000 to get an animatronic made.
oh, wow.
Yeah, and he's posted some of the prototypes and stuff like that out there.
That's
And
cool.
Spencer and I have done a bunch of cons together where we'll table next to each other, or sometimes we'll even share a booth together.
Right on.
And he's so much fun and he's so witty. And there's a guy who's making independent movies and based right out of your hometown there.
Yeah, exactly. And I would love to get him on the show. I love supporting independent filmmakers, especially in the horror industry, and especially if they're homegrown, right? In Canada, Canada has come up with a lot of great independent films in the horror industry. A lot of people think that it's since stories are based in the United States that a lot of these films are filmed in the United States, and that's just not true. Most of them are filmed right here.
Yeah, I wonder if it's the cold. I wonder if that's
Maybe.
one thing that like drives us to be creative. It's like, well, we're not going outside.
Exactly. It's too damn cold here. We ain't going outside. Screw the sleds.
It's gonna
uh,
get creative or something.
yeah. Batty wants to know, do you have all of your comic books available to purchase at cons that you go to, or especially this one coming up for Denver? Will you have any comic books for sale there?
Yeah, I'll have all 6 issues
Nice.
in Denver. Um, yeah, I'm actually doing a convention later this month, Days of the Dead in Las Vegas.
Oh, I'm jealous.
I love doing horror conventions too because I don't even have to ask people, "Hey, do you like monsters?"
Right, because you know they automatically do. That's got to be the nicest thing about going to like a horror con or something like that, because you know that they're into horror, you know that they're going to be into monsters, and it kind of gives you that little bit of ice breaking room, right?
Yeah. One thing that's always kind of fun about doing the conventions is I'll ask people if they like monsters, and then some like big tattooed guy will like roll up his sleeve and like just show like a full arm of like crazy monster tattoos, and I
Right
get that
on.
like probably once a con, just someone is like right into it.
Yep, yep. I can see, I can see that being serial killer. Serial killer also went to the Calgary Horror Con. You may have met him. He's also a friend of mine here. He's at work today, so he's not happy that he's missing today's show. But yeah, he would be one of those guys that would be rolling up his sleeves or pulling up his back because he's got this amazing back tattoo of Freddy, Pinhead, Jason. It's just a crazy tattoo that he has, a full back tattoo. So it's I can see him being one of those people. Dillinger Banks is saying that you're in for a treat, George, because they have an Alamo here in Denver that's not too far from the convention that you're gonna be at. So you'll be able to check them out again.
Yeah, I really liked it a lot.
I've never seen those, so I would love to see one of those one day. There's another question from Squirtle Baggins. Do you prefer CGI or practical effects in movies?
I like practical effects. If
Same
they're
here.
if they're done well, come on. That's you can't get any better.
No,
It's just you really feel it, and I think you get like a lot more immersed into the world when you're not questioning if that's real or not. Um, like not to bag on a movie, but like recently I was watching the Terminator movie,
right.
and I just
All CGI.
they're having a scene in it where um, they go underwater and they're fighting underwater, and I could just tell that like the entire scene was CGI and that there was nothing real in it, and it just took me right out of the movie.
It definitely does. It's disappointing to see because that could easily be done underwater. I think it's a
Yeah,
lazy way out. In my opinion, I think CGI is a lazy way out of things. Um, Practical effects make that movie that much better. Like Tom Savini, in like when he was first doing like Friday the 13th, all of this little behind the scenes stuff that he did for his practical effects, it made it look great. And they didn't have CGI back then in the 80s, so practical effects was the thing to do. But I'm noticing more and more as we get into the future, a lot of people are using computer generated graphics. And I think to me, it just seems like they're lazy. I don't know if it's cheaper to go with CGI over practical effects. Maybe it is. Maybe that's why everybody's doing it. But I do agree with you that too much CGI can definitely ruin the movie.
yeah. Like so, I've been watching the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movies with my daughter.
Yeah.
She's 7, and
Aw.
yeah, and they hold up like
I
the
know they
original
look
ones,
great. Right.
and um and the practical suits by Jim Henson, and yeah, they you kind of get lost in it, and like you feel the weight uh of the character being there, and then you
Right.
compare that to the newer movies, and it's like I just never really believed that they were real, you know. So I do think that there's that practical effects are really important. That's one thing I appreciate about J.J. Abrams
Right.
bringing it to the new Star Wars movies, is that he did use practical effects when it was possible, and I think you really see a difference between the newer Star Wars movies that Abrams did, and then you compare them to like the prequel trilogy,
Right.
and there's a different weight to the characters. I think that's one thing that is relevant in in comic book art too. I don't know how well this connects, but um, you can have like a cartoony style in a comic book, but
Right.
you have to have a consistency of volume, or else you lose the reader's kind of imagination.
Yeah.
Uh, so there's like some artists like Ed McGuinness, who's on Avengers right now, or he worked on Superman, Batman,
Yeah.
and he has like an animated style, but there's so much of a weight and strength behind it that you always believe what is happening. And so I think it is possible to do it with CGI. I know the Marvel movies are great. Um, in having where having it always be consistent, but I think that's a big part of it. But I
Yeah.
do prefer practical effects if it's possible.
Yeah, I prefer practical effects. It just makes it more real for me. If I can see it being done by a computer, it does take me out of the movie. But I mean, I guess if the movie is based on that, and that's where I see a lot of the new movies are fully CGI. There's really not much they're doing in practical matters. We do have another question. This is from Reaper 1923. If you had a chance to turn one of your graphic novels into a film, which which would you want to write the film script for?
Um, yeah, I think like my Fire Engine Red
Yeah.
action adventure thing is kind of made as with as a tribute to action movies, and it lends itself really well. It's 6 issues and it's done. Whereas Cover of Darkness is building a huge world, and it'd be pretty daunting
Right.
to take on. Um, yeah, I have another book that I'm working on right now. It's called Hybrid Force, and it's about a group of okay. Sorry, I don't have my pitch all done. You know how like
Yeah,
you
yeah,
yep.
yeah.
This one, we're working on knocking it out right now. It's a manga book. The artist name is Mina Petrovic. She's from Serbia, and she did Manga Crash Course. And she's a fantastic talent. Mystic Arts on Instagram,
Mystic
and
Arts.
yeah, and so basically the story is like all of the characters have like healing factors. So it was kind of like, what if they were all Wolverine? Was kind of the idea. And so we have like an octopus girl, plant, lizard, sharks. Sharks can regrow their teeth indefinitely. Things like
Yeah.
that. And then so it's basically like Ninja Turtles meets Wolverine, divided by GI Joe, I
Oh
guess.
wow. Yeah, that's
And
very interesting.
the villainous group is called Testify, and they're led by Doctor Insomnia, who never sleeps and is always learning, and he thinks he's fit to lead the world, and he's controlled these little his creations, and a group of them has broken away and are trying to overthrow him. So that's a fun kind of manga book that I've been working on. It's a 3-issue miniseries, and I might have that ready for Denver,
Oh
and
wow.
later, like kind of this summer, we're looking to have the 3rd issue completed. I'm not releasing that as singles. I'm just gonna collect the 3 issues together and sell
Right.
that at conventions.
Oh, very cool. Are you going to be at Calgary Expo this year, or does it conflict with another con?
No, I'll be at Calgary.
Yes, because I'll be there as well. Gotta get up and get another one of these. We have another question from Dillinger Banks. What's your best or favorite memory from your writing your graphic novels? Like, what is one of your most memorable times where?
Well, I kind of write all over the place. Like kind of whenever the mood hits me. I've had times where it's like you know when you're on like a road trip and you just kind of listen to music and stuff like that, and I'll like pull the car over and I'll be like, all right, and I'll say to my wife, I'm like, I need you to drive because I need to do some writing, and just kind
Right,
of like just instantly like kind of in that moment be like on road trips. I find really like I get inspired a lot just when I'm road trips, when I'm in the airplane. I always seem to get like a lot of work done in like a short amount of time
oh
on those
wow.
sort of things. I don't know, something about just being moving while you're creating is kind of, I don't know what it is, but I find that that's a lot of the time when I get some good work done is doing those sort of writing trips.
Yeah, well that's good, you get a lot of writing done there. Who is your favorite monster?
I do love Dracula. It's just I do like the Bela Lugosi, you know, with the kind of opera cape and kind of slick. Um, I like tragic characters like Creature from the Black Lagoon. I
Yes.
love Freddy Krueger,
Oh, for
that
sure.
are more kind of comical. So yeah, those are some of my favorites.
Right on. Yeah, my one of my favorites is vampires, but if I had a choice between being a vampire and a werewolf, I would want to be a werewolf because there's less things that can kill me and I can walk during the day and at night.
There you go.
We have another question. This is from Signword. Does being on the road so much help influence some of your work?
Yeah, yeah, I get inspired from just different interactions that I have with people. That's um, so one thing as that comes up is like, well, what inspires you to write, and like, how do you get inspired? And I find that interacting with people, talking with people, is really really important because they have funny stories and they have funny sayings and different little pieces that you can take and you can put it into your writing. And
Right.
so it's important to get out there, like to not be uh, live a life of solitude and be alone so much, which I think is tempting for creative people, is to just kind of stay at home and focus on the work. But a big part of being inspired is interacting with other people. And
Yeah.
another kind of, here's a little trick though too, is if you don't feel like going out, if you don't want to go to the bar, you don't want to go to a party and interact with people, you can also watch some like really terrible like reality TV. Sometimes that inspires me too. It's just the stupid things that people say on Survivor or something
Yeah,
like.
right. Or Big Brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. We have another question from the Book Chronicles. Do you like Mr. Stephen King, and have you read any of his work?
I do like Stephen King, yeah. um yeah, I have read some Stephen King. um yeah, I think everybody likes Stephen King.
I think yeah, I think everybody likes Stephen King. I enjoy Stephen King's books, and I enjoy the adaptations of his books into movies. And his son is following in his footsteps, and I'm enjoying some of his son's work as well.
Have you seen Lock and Key on?
I started to watch Lock and Key.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Have you seen In the Tall Grass?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's a good movie. Stephen King's son and Stephen King worked on it together. Um, he it kind of it starts out really good and then it kind of gets dragged on. But it's still a decent movie to watch, and it's one of I think it's one of the first adaptations in the Tall Grass that he did. King's son did on his with his father. I
I'm
think it's
sure
on Netflix.
I'm sure you've already covered this, but what were some of your favorite horror movies from last year?
Oh, last year. Oh, favorite horror movies from 2019. Well, I don't know if I have any favorites from 2019. What was out in 2019, guys? Let me see. Halloween was out. It wasn't my favorite. Um, and I know it's not a popular opinion. I didn't think Halloween 2020, was it 2019 or 2018 did that come out? It
18.
Chapter 2 was really good. I enjoyed It Chapter 2. It was 2018 Halloween came out, right? Was it 2018? Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't like that one. But the It Chapter 2, I took my spawn to see that one. She is in love with it and she enjoyed the movies like the original one, and she's seen the reboot kind of thing on it, and then It Chapter 2 that we've seen in the movies was really good. Furies was good as well. Furies never came to our movie theater, but Furies is Australian made. Little antique. Thank you for those embers, hon. Um, have you seen the Furies?
I haven't seen that one. No.
Okay, it's on Shutter if you have Shutter, and I believe it's on Amazon Prime if you have Amazon Prime. But Furies is a very similar feel to a video game called Dead by Daylight, and it's Australian made. It never hit our theater. It just went right to, I believe, Shutter and YouTube. Really good movie. I completely forgot that that was made in 2019. And Lock and Key is a good series. I just started it.
Did you see Ready or Not?
No, I have not seen Ready or Not.
Oh, I
And I have a
loved it.
list. It's on my list. Is it good?
Yeah, yeah, it's so good. It's about this woman who marries in, no spoilers here. She marries into a very rich family, and they made their fortune on board games. And so when you marry into the family, you have to play a game, and you draw like a card, and she draws hide or seek to the death. And so which is just a random card, and so now she's being hunted by this rich family, and it just
Right?
gets really bonkers, and there's some dark humor in there, and I really enjoyed it a lot.
Yes, that movie is on my list to see. On my list to see. I have a really big list. I also want to see Rabid, the remake of Rabid. That's something I haven't seen yet. That is going
Did
to
you
be good.
see Crawl?
I have not seen Crawl.
Oh, I liked Crawl. I liked
I
it a lot.
heard good things about Crawl. I like creature movies. I like monster movies. Like Lake Placid was I loved Lake Placid with that big giant gator and Betty White. Like that was an awesome movie. Uh, Another question for you: how do you recharge your batteries? We all get into that, you're exhausted or things just haven't been going right or you've been writing nonstop and you haven't taken that time for yourself. What do you do to recharge yourself to get back into that motivation and to just relax?
For me, it's I mostly kind of just change projects. So right now, like I have four different comic books that I write, and I have the animated series that I work on. So when I'm kind of getting burnt out of one, and I just don't really have anything more to say on that, then I'll just switch to a different one and kind of
Right?
focus on that for a couple days. Um, yeah, I think a change is as good as the rest.
Yeah.
For me, that's very true.
Nice. Oh, serial killer wants to know Marvel or DC.
I'm a Marvel guy. All time. I do love Batman though. Batman's my favorite DC character for sure.
Nice, nice. I like DC. I like DC because they're a little darker than the Marvel franchise. I mean, Marvel is good. I mean, I'm not a huge Marvel or DC fan. I do like the darker side that DC brings to the comic book verse over Marvel. Marvel is very yeah, it's kind of dark, but it's a lot of fluffy dark humor for me. Where DC is darker than Marvel. That is just my opinion. And again, I'm not a really big fan of either. But I don't really see the movies. I don't really care for them. They're the same crap that they mass produce and kill the franchise.
Yeah, it's a lot of world building, and I love it, but I can see how it can be off-putting. Did you see Logan?
No, I have not. That is on our list to see. I don't really get a lot of time to see movies. I put them on a list, and then when I have my down days, that's where I binge the crap out of movies and TV series.
Yeah. I think Logan might be one that you might like more because it's pretty gritty and
I
it's
like the
a
Wolverine story. I like the actor who plays Wolverine. I like Logan. I wanted to see it. It is on the list. It is on the list. You like Harley Quinn, little antique dolls. Kind of obsessed with Harley Quinn. So yeah, DC. Logan was really good. I have a long list, Kay. I because I'm my favorite stuff to watch is B grade horror movies. So, and a lot of that B grade horror movies comes from like the late 70s, early 80s, and into the 80 era. Um, so there's tons of B grade movies that I have yet to see. So when in my spare time is usually watching those or off the wall horror TV series like on Shutter. They have their very own Shutter originals, like Netflix has their Netflix originals. Shutter has a lot of originals that they do, like Wolf Creek. Wolf Creek has a movie, 1 and 2 movie out, and it's based on a true story out in the Australian outback. Shutter has made that into a TV series. So I watch things like I watch those type of things in my spare time. So I do have a huge list of movies that I want to see. We do have another question here from Ake. If you could visit one scary place anywhere in the world, where would it be? And there's numerous scary places, but
one thing I was interested in going to was there's like a real place that Arkham Asylum is based off of,
yes.
and I'd kind of like to go check that out just to get a bit of a vibe from that.
Yeah, for sure.
And
There's so many
yeah,
awesome places.
yeah, I like the idea of going to like a haunted asylum too. Um,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a little twisted to me because like I know like real people lived at these places and bad things happened to them, but I still kind of want to check it out.
Oh, for sure. I definitely I feel you on that one. I would love to go to the Stanley. Like me and Book, we both want to go to the Stanley Hotel, which was the hotel for the inspiration and where the movie was made for The Shining. That is a place that I would love to go to. Whitechapel, going back to Jack the Ripper would be another spot that I would love to go to and see. The Haunting of Hill House movie set. Oh yeah, that would be fun, DB. I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, I'd be interested in going to like Romania and
Oh
there's
yeah.
and just kind of going there and checking out um the horror the kind of vampire lore from that area.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Vlad is my man.
so one thing like I do kind of include a lot of the my personal experiences from like travels
Right.
in my comic book. Like for example, um, our Frankenstein monster. Here, let me show you a picture of him. So here's our design. He's a steampunk Atlantean Frankenstein, and he's resurrected by his wife, Dr. Mary Frankenstein, the most
Oh, that's
brilliant
awesome.
inventor in all of Atlantis. So, um, one thing that when I was in Greece, I'm Greek, and so I incorporated some of Greek mythology into our books here. Is it's rumored that Santorini Island was the site of Atlantis, and Santorini modern day is crescent shaped,
Yeah.
but it used to be like a circle, and there's a volcano at the center of it, and it is kind of speculated that the volcano erupted and that half the island broke off, and that island was in fact Atlantis,
Right.
and so that's where we've set our Frankenstein story is in Santorini pre volcano eruption, and Dr. Mary Frankenstein is the most brilliant inventor in Atlantis, and she's kind of harnessed the power of the volcano, and so
Right.
all of their technology is based off of it comes through the steam of the volcano, And so it's like a steampunk, steam powered
That's
society.
cool. Frankenstein's monster is one of my favorite monsters.
Yeah.
I love the story behind him. I love the monster. I think he's really awesome. That's cool. And I did see that as going through here. Um, right here. So I was reading on him. I was like, that's an awesome Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, we did. So we gave him a superconductor to the cranium,
Yeah,
a metal jaw, and a cookie jar lid to put the brain back in.
that's awesome. That is awesome. He's a very cool looking monster for sure.
Yeah, our artist MJ Hiblin, he came up with that design like 100%. Like lots of times I give him notes on like, oh, can you make him look like this or like that?
Right.
And
And then
but
his
that was
creative
all him.
brain just goes crazy with what he envisions this monster as. What is your artist's Instagram? Does he have an Instagram? Do you want anything?
Yeah, MJ Hiblin art.
Okay, let's see if I can find that here on Instagram so I can get it out for everybody um, that may want to check out his actual artwork besides the comic book. MJ, I got his last name here, Hiblin
Art.
Art.
Um, yeah, he's got
Found
like
him.
over 200,000 subscribers. He posts a lot of fun stuff on there. Lots of like kind of whatever's kind of going on in pop culture. Like he had like a lot of John Wick stuff for a while on there, and
Yeah,
um, yeah, you know what? We've been working together for a year and a half, and I've never talked to him on the telephone.
really.
Email like every day. That's about
Oh,
it though.
wow. Oh, I do have another question from Steinward. He asks, if you could control any supernatural creature from any movie, who would it be for 1 hour? That's a hard one for you, hey?
What would I
Yeah,
don't know.
if
It'd
you
be
can
kind of
control
cool to get a
anyone.
hold of the predator. He could turn invisible and take people on.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I think
With predator.
I would like to do if I could have a power. Predator is what he said. Steinward. Yeah, that's a really good one. For me, I think if I could have any control for 1 hour over a supernatural creature, I think it would have to be the Wendigo. If you guys know what a Wendigo is, that would be. Oh, Book, you would do Alien. Oh, that xenomorph, man. Yeah, that xenomorph is awesome. She's mainly made up of shredded condoms and KY jelly for her for her jawline. Is her jaw? So when she opens up her mouth, the xenomorph is literally shredded condoms. They use
What?
shredded condoms for that part, and KY jelly for her sliminess.
That's a
Interesting.
great use of the practical effects in those early movies, man.
Oh, they were great. A lot of the movies from the 80s that we discussed, or even the late 70s and 70s, we found in a lot of our research that shredded condoms, or condoms themselves, and KY jelly are the biggest things that are in the makeup kit of the practical artist. It's surprising to see even Predator himself had condoms in there in his costume. It's just crazy how they use these things for that. We found it a lot. We found it very funny.
Did you know that I'm sure you did. John Claude Van Damme was originally cast to play the Predator.
Yes, yes. Could you imagine? But the suit was heavy for him, and he couldn't do the moves that he wanted to do in that suit. That suit,
Yeah.
I think we heard about that suit weighted close to 200 pounds in total, or something like that. It was a very crazy number. It was so heavy that the one scene in the tree where you see Predator in the tree, that tree is made out of cement. It is
Oh,
not
wow.
a real tree. He's so heavy that not only the actor inside the costume's weight, but you have the weight of the costume. And I think in total it was like 200 pounds, and the trees would not be able to hold him. So they had to create a concrete tree to have Predator hanging out there.
I actually went out to the site where they filmed the Predator in Puerto Vallarta.
Yes. Yes, they had a hell of a time filming out there. A lot of
Yeah.
people got
I think
sick.
maybe it worked out for the best that he didn't play it, though. I don't know if we needed the Predator doing the splits.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah, it was definitely a different suit than what they were going to go with in the beginning as well. But it's a good movie, and that's really awesome. You got to visit the site.
Yeah, it was cool. I live right by Hope, BC, which
Yep,
is where they filmed Rambo.
yep.
And I've always kind of thought about like running through the forest with the headband for some reason.
Who doesn't love Rambo? Exactly. And my husband and I, we ride our bike out to Nanaimo. This is where we're from, and we go through Hope, BC. It's such a beautiful place. You would never think that Hope, BC was where Rambo was filmed. If you look at the movie, like you would never say, "Oh, that's Hope, British Columbia."
You lived in Nanaimo?
Yes, Vancouver Island.
Yeah, I was there too. I went to high school there, Dover Bay.
Yes. We moved from BC 2012, 2013. We've been in Alberta now for like 8 years now. I miss the island. It is a small world. We may have lived in the same area or in the same town, but I tell you, there's a lot of people in the area. Do you guys have any other questions for George? It definitely is a small world, and there is the Kickstarter. If you guys want to check out the Kickstarter for Cover of Darkness, I highly suggest it. There's numerous amazing perks in there. It is worldwide, so if you're like, oh, well, I'm in the UK, will I get this? Yes. And I have read this one here, and it is a great read. I enjoyed reading this. I was super excited to get home and read this when I received it in June of last year. You're so going there after the show? For sure, Miss Chicken Arms, for sure. Are you selling? Yes, Serial Killer. He did answer that earlier. I know you're at work. He did say that he will be at the Denver Comic Con. He will be having comic books there, and most likely at the Calgary Horror Con because he will be there again this year.
And I do drink rum.
Oh, and he does drink rum. Look at that.
But I do like rye, Crown Royal. If
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's kind of my jam. But I
Yeah.
do drink rum as well and beer.
Have you tried the Crown Royal Green Apple?
I have, yeah.
How do you like it?
It's pretty good. I made a game. Uh, you can do it with Crown Royal Green Apple, or we do it with Fireball too.
Ooh, yeah.
It's like I call it Fireball Bocce. And so if you're like out camping and you have like a bocce ball set, basically if you know how bocce goes, you throw the little white ball and then you
Yep.
throw the balls out afterwards. So if you get it closest to the white ball, you get to give a drink, and if you get it furthest away, you have to take a drink. So two drinks are consumed with every ball, and you go through a bottle pretty quick.
Yeah, I would say you would go through a bottle pretty quick. Ooh. Do you go to the VIP party that they have on Friday night before the full con starts?
At the Calgary Expo?
Yeah.
I don't think I've been to that one.
Okay. Then, Serial Killer. It's Friday. It's Friday night that they start off that VIP. Yeah. Okay, Friday night. They hold a VIP section, not a section, but they hold a VIP before the con on Saturday where you get to hang out with the celebrities that are going to the con or some of the vendors that are going to be there as well. I know I'm going to try to make this year's, and I know that Serial Killer and I will be having a table at the con this year. We have another question. Do you play any horror games? This is coming from the Book Chronicles. Like, are you into video games at all?
Not too much. I kind of like the side scrollers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I did get a Nintendo Switch, and I have Mario Maker. I like to build the level and then go through it.
Yeah.
But that's kind of it for me right
That's
now.
the extent for you?
Video games.
Right on. Right on. Yeah, Miss Chicken Arms, George Michail is in here as well. I gave him the link to the Mixer channel so he can actually see what you guys write in there. YouTube Addict, since you're just joining us, he is creating Cover of Darkness, It is a graphic novel comic book. He is working with Hilblin as the artist. There you go. He's going to show you some artwork there and here. Uh,
So yeah, guys, just one more time, it's Cover Darkness. It's kind of like Game of Thrones meets Universal Monsters. It's about a family in medieval Romania. They get separated from each other and they encounter all the classic villains. You got vampires, werewolves, Frankenstein, the mummy, and the creature from the Black Lagoon. Each issue has a standalone monster origin story that's a self-contained read. The first issue is on Kickstarter now, and it has a vampire story, and that's half of it. And then the other half of the issue is about our family and their ongoing adventure. And one thing that's really fun about it is that within the family we have twin shape-shifting nephews, boys that can turn into animals. So you
so
get
awesome.
monsters fighting animals in the book.
Definitely awesome. I love monsters. They're one of my favorite genres in the subgenre of horror. Werewolves, vampires, Frankenstein's monster, the mummy, all awesome. And I read this one here, which I received last year, like I said, at the Calgary Horror Con, and it is great. It kept me, like, I couldn't read it all in one sitting, but I would read it at night, and it kept me engaged. And sometimes I would put myself inside this story where I'm trying to fall asleep to try to get to sleep, is bring up some of the scenarios in the story and kind of put myself in there when I try to fall asleep. So I definitely suggest getting in on this Kickstarter, guys. And oh, thank you, YouTube Addict, for the sub. I appreciate that. Now I'm a devil. Thank you very much, YouTube Addict, for that sub. I appreciate it. Where can you buy it? Here is the Kickstarter. And I forgot to turn off that event.
You can pick it up on Kickstarter right now. It's $5 for a digital download or $10 US physical copy. And it'll get mailed to you. And we have lots of cool variant covers, some awesome prints available too. You can check me out at Comic Book George on Instagram. And you can see lots of more art from the project as well.
Okay, yep. We have your Instagram there as well. Let's see. Let's get that out there. Now, I forgot to turn off my subscriber song. So it's playing right now as we are speaking. I don't know if you probably have the stream muted. And I forgot to turn that off. Anytime someone subscribes to my channel, I turn into like a she-devil. I get horns and flames of fire, and then I have a short clip run off. And I forgot to turn that off this morning. Thank you, YouTube. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And yeah, can we get Instagram again? Get that Instagram link out for George Michail. Thank you. There are all the links, the website, Instagram, and the Kickstarter. I highly suggest, if you're interested in any of this, to check out the Kickstarter. Do you know what or who the Bedlam is? Bedlam. Serial killer. Do you know what a Bedlam is, or know what it is, or who the Bedlam is? No, right?
No.
Bedlam.
Sorry, I saw someone ask me what kind of music I like.
Yeah.
I don't know what a Bedlam is.
Okay, what kind of music do you like?
I like alt rock. I like Green Day, Offspring. I really like the Bravery.
Right on.
Yeah, Alt Nation on. I don't like a lot of new music, but Alt Nation on Sirius XM, I'll listen to that, and I like 1 out of 10 songs on there.
Right on. Slipknot is Book's favorite. I do like I like the grunge. I like metal. That kind of music up my. I don't really care for a lot of today's music. I don't really consider it too much music. A lot of it has a lot of auto-tuning crap to it.
I think every generation kind of likes the music of their youth.
Yeah.
And then as time goes by, you don't like the newer stuff. I still try and keep up with new stuff, but definitely the music of when I was a teenager, like, Nirvana and Green Day, those are kind of my jams forever.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's also the era that you grew up in. Grunge was coming on the scene, right? Grunge didn't come out in the 70s or 80s. We had punk, and then you had your rock and roll, your hair bands, and then grunge comes on the scene with you've never heard of Offspring? Fuck. Go Google some offspring right now. Yes, and Stan Lee, yes. Tenacious Lee just went to your Instagram and he was like, ah, man, nice pic with Stan Lee.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to meet Stanley a few times, and he's always super nice to me. And I took him to sign. I have like a X-Men #1,
Wow.
and it had like a big like 60 or 50 cents written on it, like in crayon from like when it was for sale at like someone's garage sale in the
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
60s or something. And Stan's said to me, he's like, "Oh, that won't do, true believer." And he did his signature like um 3 times as big as he normally did, and he like covered up the 50 cents on it.
Right
It's
on.
pretty cool.
That is really cool. I never got a chance to meet him. He came to the big Comic Con that we have here, but it gets too crazy there. It's really big now. This is a separate con from the horror con that we go to, but the Calgary Expo, it's really big now. And he was there a couple of years back, and I wanted to meet him, but the lineup was just insane. And I was trying to meet Bruce Campbell because he's one of my favorites. And his lineup was insane. 4 hours in a line on him alone. I sat there and stood to get my picture and to talk to him. Have you
I
played?
actually
Oh, go
met
ahead.
somebody recently. They were at the Vancouver convention in February, and he had met Bruce Campbell, and he got his Army of Darkness poster signed by him, and he was like so excited about it. And then that night, his car got broken into,
Oh,
and they stole like all his like CDs, and he had bought my comic book, and they had stolen my comic book, but they left the poster back, and he's like, thank God they left my poster. So he was pretty relieved.
yeah. Because everything else is, you can get your comic book again, you can get the CDs again, but you can't. It's not going to be another time that you could get his signature on your poster. Like that's right. I mean, Bruce Campbell was here once. He hasn't been back since. So I'm very happy that I decided to wait 4 friggin' hours online on hard cement to see him. We do
Yeah.
have a question from Scoto Baggins. If you like side scrollers, have you ever played Bloodstain Ritual of the Night? Right now, it is free on Xbox Game Pass.
Oh, I haven't played that one, but I'd like to check it out.
Yeah, we're big gamers here in the Horde as well. We like our video games. We like our horror video games. They can tell you, they can suggest numerous games for you to check out, especially side scrollers, because the Xbox. What platform do you play on? PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Wii?
Myself,
Yeah,
I've got the Nintendo Switch with my Mario Maker game. That's
nice. I don't know how many of those games are on the Switch. I want a Switch. I don't own a Switch yet, but I would like to have a Switch. Do
I
they
bought
have mini games?
Sumo System, I think it was called, off of like online, and it had like it's like an emulator kind of system, and it had like every game from like Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. It even had like the arcade games on it,
Right.
like the Simpsons arcade game
I
and
like The
things like.
Simpsons.
So that's kind of fun.
Definitely is. Definitely is. We are coming up on that 2 hour mark. It went by so quickly. I didn't even realize the time. I should have reminded you at the 1 hour mark, which was at 11 o'clock. But we were just having so much fun talking to you. We are on that 2 hour mark. Is there anything? What's the next con that you're going to be at?
I'm at Days of the Dead in Las Vegas
Days of the Dead.
in 2 weeks, and then I'll be in Calgary in April for the Calgary Expo.
Oh, for that Calgary Expo, and then are you going to the HorrorCon as well in Calgary in June?
No, I haven't got that one booked yet.
Okay. Cause yeah, that one is coming up. But I think it's June 19th, and then the one in Denver. When is that one going on again?
I think it's July 3rd. I
Sometime in the
so
summertime, right?
last year I did 16 conventions. It was a bit much.
That's a
This
lot.
year I'm trying to do one a month. I because I love it, and but
A
it's
lot of work
also,
and a lot of
I'm a
energy.
dad. It takes me away from my family too. So
For
I
sure.
do really love doing conventions, but so I try and do one a month.
Okay. Oh, wait. So July 3rd to the 5th in Denver, according to Dillinger and Batty Page. But yeah, they're time consuming. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of driving if you can't get onto flights. It's a lot of work, and 16 conventions. It may not sound like a lot to many of you out there, but if you've ever been to a con as a patron, think about being at a con as a creator. The amount of work and time that you're there. See, as a patron, you go there for a couple hours, you go home, right? As a creator, especially in a different area, in a different country, you're there from start to finish, and you're going back to a hotel, or in George Michael's case, back to a van sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it was pretty full on. And I stand the whole time and I talk to people like the whole time.
yeah, you're
So
not just
uh,
sitting down. Well, you
yeah.
could, but you're not going to get far if you're just sitting in a corner being quiet, right? You got to get out there, you got to talk to people. And, sleeping in a van and staying in your, you're going to remember that for the rest of your life. It's stories that you're going to tell your children when they're old enough, and that they're going to tell their children. And these experiences going to cons, they're usually once in a lifetime type of experiences doing them as a creative instead of going as a Patreon.
Yeah, yeah, I have an absolute blast at them, meeting people and telling them about my monster book, and it's nice now too because I've kind of built up an immunity. The first few ones that I did, I'd get like so sick by like the end
Yeah,
of the weekend, just like talking all day and shaking hands. But now I'm kind of used to it, and I don't know,
right. You
I've
build up that
leveled up
immunity.
personally.
Razor has one more question for you. If you were to wear a costume, who would you be? Whether it's for a con or for Halloween or for an event, what would you dress up as?
I don't dress up for the conventions, but I do dress up for Halloween every year. I love Halloween.
Halloween's a great
I
holiday.
used to always go as like something scary, but now we do family
Yep, you got little
family
ones,
costumes.
right?
So last year we did Moana last year, and my daughter, she was Moana, and then my wife was she went as Maui, and I was Hey Hey the chicken.
Yeah, that's great.
Uh, and the year before we did Teen Titans, I was Robin, my wife was Raven, my daughter was Starfire, that's her favorite, and we painted the dog green, and
Oh,
she was
cute.
Beast Boy.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, once you have kids, you've got to tone it down a bit and start doing that family friendly type of costumes. I agree with you. I like being scary. I know a lot of people take Halloween to dress very skimpy and very sexy, but I take Halloween to be very scary and gruesome. And now that my spawns are older, my youngest one is 16, I can start bringing back that scary stuff.
Yeah,
And,
I can't wait to introduce my daughter into horror and scary stuff,
right?
and yeah, she's we're just starting to get out of like everything being animated all the time, which is exciting for me.
Oh, for sure. Oh my God, my youngest spawn would watch Madagascar so many times. Oh my God, I knew word for word Madagascar. She watched it so much that the DVD that we had it on would not play anymore. We had to buy another copy. Oh, hours, repeat hours on that one. Oh, I was so glad when she started getting up and out of those.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Like I said, we've been watching the Ninja Turtles, the live action ones from the
Right?
90s, and watched like Home Alone, and just kind of getting out of all the
Yes,
time
out of the
cartoon.
animated cartoonish. Yeah, stepping in. I did the same thing with my spawn, and I when with horror, I introduced her to R.L. Stein books, getting her into that genre, which would have been the R.L. Stein Goosebumps, and then Scary Stories, and Are You Afraid of the Dark, which was very gentle type of dark horror for them at that time. And now she just loves slasher movies.
Yeah, she loves Nightmare Before Christmas.
Great
That's
movie to love.
yeah.
Great movie to love. Um, since we are getting up on that 2 hour mark, is there anything else that you would like to let us know about? Anybody else you'd like to shout out? Any besides your Kickstarter here? What else you have going on?
Uh, No, I just kind of trying to get the word out on my Kickstarter. That's one thing. Maybe let's maybe end on that. Is for aspiring creative people, as far as like doing like a comic book, you might see on Kickstarter these huge totals of sales that people get. I think Brian Polito has his Lady Death book out there, and I think it's hit like $300,000 in a couple of days. That's a guy who's been in the industry for like 30 years
Right.
and been making comic books and has like a huge fan base. This is my second Kickstarter. My first Kickstarter, I had 80 backers, and I probably knew like 70 of them. Like
Right.
personally. Like it was just, it's a lot of friends and family and kind of getting out there and hustling. And it's not even just enough to put it out on your Facebook and be like, hey guys, I have this
No.
out there. I actually had to like message each and every person like individually and be like, hey, remember at Dover Bay and Nanaimo, I made you that mixtape.
Yeah.
Can you back my book, please? Like, or
Yeah.
hey, I bought you that beer that one time. You want to buy my comic book now?
For
It's
sure.
really like it's a hustle to get out there
It
and
is.
get the word out on your projects, and just it's not just enough to throw it up on Kickstarter and think you're
Oh,
going to be making
you
tens
gotta
of
pimp
thousands
it.
of dollars. So I really appreciate any support. If you like monsters, we've got a cool book for you guys. It's we have like the nice kind of gritty monsters like the Nosferatu stylized and stuff
Yes.
there, um, and it's a good monster book. So I really appreciate you having me on your show and letting me get the word out there to
Uh,
everyone.
Not a problem. As a content creator myself, I definitely know how hard it is to get out there. And I always tell people who are aspiring to be streamers and content creators like myself is to start with your family. Tell people about you. Let them know if they want to support you. This is an easy, free way for them to support you. Even just sharing it, right? Um,
Yes.
Even if they can't afford to do something from the Kickstarter, sharing it amongst their friends and families, co-workers, because you never know who they know. So never be afraid to contact family and friends, even friends that you may not even spoken to or family that you haven't even spoken to, because you never know. You just don't know. And I'm going to post the Kickstarter here again. There's some really amazing perks as well for backing this Kickstarter. I will be myself backing it as well. I enjoyed this one that I received. So yeah, when I bought it on in June, definitely a great book, guys.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It was really nice to meet the Horde and be on here, and it's nice seeing you again. And I hope to see you in Calgary in April.
Yes, same here. Thank you so very much for coming on to the show. I was very excited to hear from you. I was like, yes, that's awesome. I've been talking about you for about 2 weeks now to the Horde and going over your book and the works that you have been doing. And we were super excited and a pleasure to have you on this show. And I hopefully will get to see you in April. I know that place gets crazy.
Yes.
It gets crazy. All right, thank you, George. This again, guys, George Michaels. No relation to George Michaels. George Michael. There is all of his information, website, Kickstarter, and Instagram. Make sure you check them all out. He will be going to a few cons in the States, one in Vegas. Then he'll also be in Denver, and he will be in Calgary. So if you're a local here, he will be in Calgary in April for the expo there as well. Thank you, Serial. All right, thank you very much, Michael. We're going
Oh,
to end here. You have yourself a great Sunday.
thanks so much.
All right. Bye.